talking about men's mental health and some strategies that can help. Stay tuned. Early on in my career, I interviewed for a job position, and one of the questions that I still remember to this day was how much experience I had working with men and their mental health, because this was something that they saw quite frequently in their population. This was at a college campus and a trade school, so a lot of their demographic were men. And I remember being caught off guard because in my practice experience to date, I'd actually not seen a lot of men. I'd worked in an employee and family assistance program, so any family member who had benefits through their company could come for counseling. And not, unfortunately, too surprisingly, a lot of people who chose to seek out care were identifying as female, not as men. The climate has changed. That was about 12 years ago or so. However, it hasn't changed enough. There's still a lot of stigma, a lot of shame, and a lot of secrecy for men dealing with emotions, which can lead to issues with mental health, as well as issues with substance use and other addictive tendencies. And it's unfortunate. I truly don't believe that men need to be suffering in the silence and the isolation that they are. And even though I'm not a man, nor do I identify as one, I do feel that in my practice, I have a few tips and strategies that I would share for the men who are watching, but also for their loved ones who may or may not be men themselves. One of the first tips and strategies I would suggest is that you need to focus on prioritizing connection. It's been well established that men are more isolated. However, as with all human beings, we do better when we're in packs. We are designed to be social creatures. Even the most introverted of us still values connection, true, deep, intimate connection with other human beings. For men, the opportunities in which to do this may feel different than for other genders. I would suggest focusing on places like work, focusing on activity-based relationships, so going out and doing something that you enjoy, which can allow you to build connections with other men. And also, if you know that you have a specific mental health or addiction issue, recovery support groups can be a really great option to find other men who've been through some similar shared experience and who are generally looking at exploring their emotional intelligence in a different way than people who have not experienced those issues before. This can offer a diverse opportunity for growth because it allows people to be able to see other men crying, other men dealing with and expressing emotion, and other men communicating about their issues in a different way. This can also be found in people who are not in a recovery or support group. However, you may need to be a bit more persistent in your search because that's not going to be ready-made in the connections that you have. However, a lot of men do actually struggle to make and maintain friendships and therefore have a lot of isolation, and their partners and their families may be their sole source of social support and connection, which is not going to be enough. As much as you may love and value your family, it's not going to be the same as having other people, especially other men that you can connect with. Being with our same gender helps us to see and experience who we are as ourselves, because in those people, they act as mirrors to help us learn and grow about ourselves. And so that's a prime place to build that self-esteem, self-confidence, and knowledge of who you are. I would also encourage men out there to take steps to learn more about some fundamental emotional intelligence skills. Take steps to develop communication skills, learn more about things like empathy, talking about emotions, connecting with emotions, identifying emotions, building that emotional language can be really helpful for yourself in being able to identify and articulate what may be going on at the deeper levels of self, as well as then being able to share those and communicate those with the people around you. I would also encourage men to keep working on building their social skills. There are different resources out there that might be able to help you with that, places that you can learn and resources where you can learn what to talk about when you're around other people. How do you engage in conversations? Because unfortunately, social skills may not always have been modeled to men by their caregivers and providers in the past. For a lot of people, we're operating on what we've been taught from the generations before. And we certainly know that mental health, relationships, and connection were not prioritized by earlier generations as much as they are being focused on today. The other thing I would encourage men who are aware that they have gone through or are going through some issues with their mental health or addiction, I would challenge you to recover out loud, be vocal with the people around you when it feels safe and when it feels appropriate to share with them your journey and the challenges. When we keep secret and we keep to ourselves, that prevents the growth from happening. It keeps the stigma going because stigma thrives in isolation, in secrecy, and within isolation and secrecy, shame can build. Men are at much higher risk of substance use concerns, suicidal ideation, and death by suicide. And so men's mental health is an important priority for all of us, even those who do not identify as men. There's many men in each of our lives, in our workplaces, our homes, our families, that we value and care about. And we want to make sure that they are being taken care of and that they feel like the healthiest and happiest versions of themselves that they can be. For men dealing with other men, I hope you will challenge yourself to engage in a little bit of a different way with them. Even if you're doing an activity, try and ask people how they're doing, how things in their lives are feeling for them, in addition to just what's happening. It's easy to get lost in being superficial, just focused on whatever project or task you're engaging in. It's hard to challenge ourselves to go deeper, but that's where real intimacy and therefore real connection in relationships builds. And so it's important to keep challenging yourself to do that in environments where you feel that there's the potential to do so. I hope that the men out there will challenge themselves to build a foundation of healthy nutrition, healthy rest, and body movement to keep your physical body strong, which also allows us to then be able to tackle our emotional, our mental, and our relational world. For men out there, you may also want to consider what the role of spirituality is in your life. This is also something that can be impacted by the generations that came before. And some of us were raised with pretty rigid ideas of what spirituality, leading into the idea of religion can be. And perhaps it can be something much more personal, much more flexible, much more nuanced for you. Maybe it's a connection with nature. Maybe it's a connection with animals. These things can help build that compassion, that nurturing side, which men absolutely have within them, but often aren't provided the safe space to explore that part of themselves. If you identify as a more quote-unquote sensitive man or male, great, good on you. I hope that you'll embrace that part of you and not hide from it. If you tend to feel emotions in a really big and large way, that's totally okay. That's part of who you are. But learning how to deal with those in a healthy and appropriate way, using tools that allow you to reflect, introspect, process through, whether that's talking with others, maybe part of that is spiritual tools, meditation, journaling, the arts, creativity, body movement and expression. There's so many different things that can help us in our emotional world. And congratulations for being here and taking that first step to wanting to at least be curious about what it might look like to take care of yourself and look after your mental health differently. I'm excited to see where the world goes over the next little while. I hope that men will continue to be encouraged to challenge some of the ways and the values in which they were raised and be able to just be themselves, be able to explore their relational and emotional world differently. Because I think I hear from a lot of men that they felt very restricted by these ideas of being macho or being tough or being manly. Those have been more restrictive than helpful in their lives. And many are ready to shed that and just be themselves. And I hope that that's what you will continue to quest for, is just being yourself and being comfortable with who you are. Wherever you're at on your journey, I hope that you'll take care of yourself. If you are feeling like you're ready to reach out for some professional support, please do take a look at what's available in your local area. And maybe there are some services specific to working with men, which may help to further break down some of these barriers and some of that stigma and even shame that you might be carrying. There's absolutely nothing wrong in seeking support. And in fact, it's a huge source of strength, encouragement, and empowerment for people. Wherever you're at in your journey, I appreciate your time, appreciate you watching, and wish you well. Take care.